Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I thought I'd continue on from my last episode, the update on this reef tank. As you can remember, I was having some issues with a lot of shading with the corals down the bottom end. So I thought I'd do a video on how I address these issues. So instead of having to keep trimming corals all the time, which I'll still probably have to do, I thought I'd try and modify the light bracket up there. So in this video I'll take you through the process of like designing it, 3D printing it, and then also installing these new light brackets. Hey guys, so if you can remember from my last episode, I was discussing how all the corals down here in the bottom section, I was getting a bit of dieback with those corals, just because of how much shading I get from the corals up on top. So I was sort of talking about how much I have to trim these corals. But I think it's kind of gotten to the point where I actually have to adjust my lights. And you can see, so like initially when I designed this system, like the spread I was getting from these lights was actually really, really good. And it still is, but it's just not quite adequate enough now for the type of aquascape and the coral growth that I've been getting. So initially, when I first modified it, I just kind of adjusted it slightly by offsetting these mounts a little bit, but that hasn't really done enough. As you can see, like a lot of these seriatoporas and stuff the other way, and it's getting a bit of depth up underneath the tissue there, and that's just due to not getting enough light. And you can kind of see all the corals, like how they reach out to try and get the light there. So yeah, in this episode I thought I'd take you through designing some pieces, some new mounts for these lights. So initially I was kind of thinking about just extending the mounts out a bit further, but then I thought maybe if I extend them out but then also angle them down, that way the bits underneath should get a little bit more light. There will be some parts of the tank that still are quite shaded, but I think all in all it will be a bit beneficial. I should be able to put a few more corals down the side because it's looking a bit bare on the sides. The top's looking great, but yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is just take some sort of rough measurements. I don't want the lights to hang down too close to the water, otherwise I'm going to get salt creep all over them. Even though the blades are waterproof, it's not really healthy for lights to have salt all over them. So I kind of want the lights to come down like a bit of an angle around there. So I'll probably make the bracket like around 10 centimeters or so in length. I also probably want maybe like a 30-degree angle or something there. I don't want it too sharp, otherwise it's going to shine light into our eyes when we're having dinner. Yeah, so maybe like a 30-degree angle, so then it kind of shines into the tank only. You get a nice little spread, and not too far down. I don't want it hanging too close to the water that you get salt water all over it. Yeah, so yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so the second thing I had to do was go through and design these mounts for the lights. It's really handy having a 3D printer. I can design a prototype and print it out within the space of a few hours. I normally print all my reef stuff in PETG as well. It lasts a bit longer. I don't normally really print stuff that goes in the water, but apparently PETG can also go in the water. As these will be holding lights, I also wanted a filament that it had a bit of a higher thermal tolerance as well. So PETG should be pretty good at this. Yeah, this print so far, it's taken 5 hours so far. So I've got 4 of these to print. So yeah, another 20 hours of printing. But it only uses up about 50 grams of plastic, so it's actually not too bad. Relatively inexpensive. So each one of those parts probably only costs about $3 to be honest, which is not bad. But yeah, I just use Tinkercad to design stuff. I'm not a web designer, I'm a scientist, so basically it's really easy to use this. You just sort of create a whole bunch of shapes, you drag them across, adjust the sizes, then you can like merge them together or subtract things, and that's basically how I do all my designing. I would like to learn how to use 3D software properly, but I just don't have the time or mental capacity to do it. Yeah, but I mean, I've managed to print quite a few things doing it this way, so yeah, it does the job. So highly recommend. Yeah, if you ever want to get into 3D printing. Also, I use a I think it's an Ender S3 Pro. It costs like $500 or $600, but it's paid for itself over multiple times now. I've had it for nearly 2 years, and it's just been really, really great with prototyping random stuff. And yeah, it's I really love it. So after 4 hours of printing, this is what it looks like. I have tidied it up a little bit, just deburred a lot of the edges. As you can see, there's a bit of like, it's a stringy plastic. I also had to widen these holes a little bit just to fit the screws in that mount them on. It is a bit tricky printing objects with multiple different like sides and edges and stuff like this, as obviously it prints up like that, so it struggles to do overhangs. So I also had to clear out these little bits in here as well. But overall, not too bad. It clips onto the light. So yeah, we'll see if it holds it up. Okay, so here's the end product. It is a bit hard to tell how much extra light is coming down the sides, but just from my own eyes I can see that there's like a lot more light, like especially this Fossil Opera here has a lot more light on it. All these Zoas have a lot more light. So all in all I think it actually worked pretty well. You can see, so the light itself was only extended a little bit, so it used to be here and now it's come here, but it's also angled in, which means that it's getting sort of, when you look at the light spread of lights, you know how it always sort of, you get the most amount of par in the center. So now that that's sort of aiming down the side there, theoretically we should be getting a lot more par. Also too, I think I kind of like the design of it angled in. I was a bit skeptical. I liked how flat and just, yeah, how nice it looked before, but it still doesn't look too bad like that, to be honest. And we don't get a lot of light flooding on the other side. Yeah, overall, pretty impressed with it. Not bad for $10 worth of plastic. But yeah, you can see we are getting a bit more light down the side there. So I'm keen to see how the corals respond to this. It's only like, it is kind of a negligible difference in the amount of light they're getting, but like the difference between like 0 and like 50 par or 50 to 100 par makes such a difference with corals, especially like just the way that I'm seeing the corals die down here. They're dying kind of slowly at the base, which to me just indicates that they're not quite getting enough light to maintain their metabolic requirements. So all in all, I think it turned out pretty well. Yeah, so stay tuned to see how all these corals cope. Hopefully now I can put a bit more sort of LPS or maybe even some SPS down there. But yeah, time will tell. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with how these turned out. A few little things I probably would fix. You can just see the little lip there. But all in all, turned out pretty well. I do recommend, especially, I'll leave the links for these in the description. I'll try and set up a Dropbox or something, or if you want them, just email or message me on YouTube or Instagram. But yeah, one thing I would recommend if you're going to use these is to heat up these before you try snapping them onto the lights, or slide them in. As one of the ones I did actually snapped off and I had to glue it back on. But apart from that, I think it worked pretty well. So yeah, all in all, successful mod. Thanks for watching, and yeah, let me know what you guys think in the description. Cheers.